You know, it really makes you stop and think when someone like Bill Gates, looking back at his childhood, sort of muses that his words were he would probably be diagnosed with autism today. Okay, let's jump into that right away.
Yeah.
Because that potential insight, into how his mind worked, maybe it offers a really fascinating angle on the start of Microsoft itself.
Well, it's immediately interesting, isn't it? The idea that maybe a specific cognitive style, perhaps one with intense focus,
Right.
might have been a huge factor in just the sheer drive, the determination you'd need to build something that big.
Exactly.
It makes you wonder if Microsoft's whole story kind of carries the imprint of that unique way of seeing things.
Exactly. And that's pretty much the deep dive we're starting today. We're going to explore Microsoft's origins, its evolution, drawing from a recent biography, which has some of those personal bits, but also using Wikipedia's incredibly detailed overview for the big picture history.
So you get both sides, the personal story right alongside the massive corporate history. That's a great combination to really get it.
Yeah, and our mission, like always, is to cut through all the noise, pull out the really key stuff, the interesting insights.
Get straight to the point.
Right. You want to be well-informed, quickly, but, properly. That's what we do. Think of this as your shortcut to grasping the big milestones, the impact, the whole Microsoft journey. So where does this huge story actually kick off?
The spark really was the early friendship between Bill Gates and Paul Allen.
Okay.
They just shared this passion for computer programming, which was, pretty new back then.
Right.
And even before Microsoft, way back in 1972, they teamed up on something called Trafo data.
Trafo data. Wow, that really sounds like something from another era now. What was that about? What was the idea?
It was their first business venture, really, focused on analyzing car traffic data, using it like a very basic computer. But it shows that early entrepreneurial spark, seeing how tech could be used, even as teenagers.
Right. So even back then, they're thinking about computers solving actual problems. And the biography really paints this picture of Gates's, almost single-minded focus on programming, sneaking out to code. Those legendary 36-hour coding binges at Harvard. It sounds almost obsessive. How did that intensity shape the early company, do you think?
Well, that kind of focus is pretty rare, right?
Yeah.
And it probably set a tone, a relentless drive for technical perfection in the early days.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about getting it done. It was pushing what the tech could do. Then, 1975, Paul Allen sees the Altair 8800. That was a big moment.
The Altair. Yeah, for anyone listening who might not know, that's one of the very first personal computers. What grabbed Allen about it?
The Altair just represented this real shift. The possibility that, hey, maybe personal computers could actually be for, more people. And it gave Allen the idea. What if they could create a basic interpreter? A basic programming language for this machine, make it easier to use.
And Gates, whoever the bold one, apparently contacts MIT's, the Altair guys, and just claims they already have a working basic interpreter, even though they didn't.
Yep.
That's pretty audacious. Or maybe just super quick thinking.
Yeah, it's definitely bold. Maybe audacious is the right word. But it worked.
Yeah.
Allen got busy on a simulator. Gates basically raced to actually write the interpreter.
Wow.
And when they showed it to MITes in March 75, it actually worked. That was the breakthrough. They had a real product.
So that demo, that success, led straight to the deal with MITes. They distribute Altair Basic.
Yep.
And from that, April 4th, 1975, Microsoft is officially born initially as Microsoft, right? Microcomputer software.
That's it. And Gates was CEO right from the get-go. Incredibly young to be leading a company. Yeah, his vision, his leadership, absolutely crucial to them. And they didn't just stick to the U.S. They set up their first international office pretty quickly in Japan. ASCII Microsoft, 1977.
Oh, interesting. So global thinking early on.
Definitely. They saw the potential. Then, 79, they moved to Bellevue, Washington. And, they're still basically there.
So those early years, really about building the tech, writing the code for these new PCs. But the huge turning point, the thing that really made them dominant, that was MS-DOS, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Undeniably. Yeah. I mean, they did dabble in operating systems before that with Xenix, their version of Unix, back in 1980.
Okay.
But yeah, the big one, the really pivotal contract was with IBM. That was November 1980.
Right, for the IBM PC.
Exactly. To provide the operating system for the IBM PC.
Yeah.
That really catapulted them.
The IBM PC, such a massive moment, not just for Microsoft, but the whole industry.
Huge.
And Microsoft's right there providing the brain, basically. But the story of how they got that OS is pretty interesting too, isn't it?
It is. because Microsoft didn't actually have an OS ready for the IBM PC.
Right.
So they made a very smart move. They bought this thing called 86DOS. It's kind of a clone of another system, CPM, from a company called Seattle Computer Products.
Oh, okay.
Then they tweaked it, rebranded it as MS-DOS, though IBM called it IBM PC-DOS.
But here's the really clever bit, the strategic masterstroke, right? Microsoft kept ownership of MS-DOS.
Yes.
IBM copyrighted their PC hardware stuff, the BIOS, which let others eventually build clones, but Microsoft owned the software that made them all run. How big was that decision?
That was the masterstroke. Absolutely huge. By keeping ownership of MS-DOS, Microsoft set themselves up perfectly.
How so?
Well, think about it. All those companies starting to make IBM PC clones, they all needed an operating system.
And Microsoft had it.
And Microsoft had the one that worked, the standard, so they could license MS-DOS to everybody. It totally shifted the power in the industry.
Wow.
Suddenly, the OS was king, not just the hardware. And Microsoft controlled the dominant OS. MS-DOS just took over the 80s. It gave them this incredible position. And they didn't stop there. 1983, they brought out the Microsoft Mouse hardware.
Right.
And even started their own book publishing division, Microsoft Press.
So by the mid-'80s, they're a major player, mostly thanks to MS-DOS. But driving all of this was Bill Gates himself, his personality, his beliefs. The biography digs into his upbringing a bit. Competitive family, upper middle class, encouraged to excel. How did that background shape him, do you think?
Well, that competitive environment clearly fueled a massive drive to succeed, real ambition.
Yeah.
Even reports of him organizing family games, coordinating things, hints of that competitive streak, wanting to win. And apparently he's good at strategy games, Risk, Monopoly. To just a mind that likes planning, thinking ahead, outmaneuvering. Pretty useful in business.
Definitely. And then there's that 1976 open letter he wrote to computer hobbyists about software piracy. That caused a stir, right? Basically saying, hey, developers need to get paid.
Yeah, it was super unpopular with a lot of the early computer nerds back then. Sharing software was common, kind of the ethos.
Right.
But Gates was firm. If developers don't get paid, why would they make good software? Seems obvious now, maybe, but back then it was controversial. But it laid down a principle for the whole commercial software industry. And interestingly, that idea, protecting intellectual property, came up again later, didn't it? Doing the antitrust stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see that thread. And linking back to his personality, Gates also gave his parents credit for helping with his social skills. Therapy, private school, sports.
Yeah.
Which is interesting given his later comment about maybe being neurodivergent. How do those pieces fit together?
Well, it shows how complex people are, right?
Yep.
His parents actively helping with social stuff probably helped him navigate leading a company, dealing with people.
Sure.
But at the same time, if he did have neurodivergent traits, maybe that explains some of that intense focus, or perhaps a communication style that some found very direct, maybe less nuanced.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so as Microsoft grew, there were some big changes. Paul Allen leaving in '83, that was significant. He'd been diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Right.
And the biography mentions Allen later claimed Gates tried to dilute his shares. What's that about?
Yeah, Allen's departure was definitely a turning point. His memoir later on does suggest some tension with Gates, especially around the equity, the ownership stakes, as the company got bigger. Allen went on to do tons of other things, of course, but it was the end of that original founding partnership.
And then 1986, the IPO, the initial public offering, that must have been absolutely massive, just created instant wealth for lots of people inside.
Oh, the IPO was huge, monumental, not just the money it brought into the company for growth.
Right.
But yeah, it instantly made a bunch of early employees millionaires, some even billionaires. That definitely changes a company's culture, its ability to get talent.
I bet. And as we get into the 90s, the focus clearly starts shifting beyond just the OS. Microsoft Office starts becoming huge, right?
Yeah.
Another dominant product. Exactly. They realized they couldn't just rely on one thing. So very strategic move to expand the software portfolio. And Office just took off, became another massive pillar for them, showed they could dominate in different areas. Then 2000, another big shift. Steve Ballmer takes over as CEO. Gates moves to chief software architect, focusing more on the tech side.
But 2000 was also the year of the big legal battle, the abusive monopoly judgment, United States v. Microsoft Corp. That must have been a really tough time.
Oh, yeah, that antitrust case was a massive challenge. Even though they eventually settled, it really put them under the microscope. Probably forced them to be more careful about competitive stuff, maybe open the door a bit for others.
Yeah.
It was definitely a moment for reflection for them and their public image.
But even with all that going on, they kept pushing into new areas, like video games.
The Xbox in 2001, that seemed like a big leap for a software company.
And major diversification.
Yeah.
Totally different market, super competitive.
But the fact that Xbox eventually became so successful really showed Microsoft was willing to take big swings and could actually succeed outside their traditional areas.
And that expansion just kept going, didn't it? Big buys like Skype in 2011, LinkedIn in 2016, plus developing Azure cloud services, the Surface devices, always looking for new places to grow.
Yeah, that ability to adapt, to keep evolving, that's been absolutely key for them. And the big shift towards cloud computing, especially under Satya Nadella when he became CEO in 2014, that's been totally transformative, really reshaped where the company's headed.
Which brings us more up to date. The Microsoft Gaming division formed in 2022, and then that absolutely colossal acquisition of Activision Blizzard in 2023. They are betting big on gaming.
Oh, undeniably. That purchase makes them a monster player in global gaming, gives them all those huge franchises, massively expands their entertainment footprint.
It's not just games, though. There's this smart city initiative. Investing in a place called Belmont near Phoenix sounds almost sci-fi. A forward-thinking community with tech built in everywhere.
Yeah, it's a really interesting project. It kind of shows their long-term thinking, how technology could reshape cities, infrastructure, transport. It's like a living lab for their tech ideas.
And just the sheer number of companies they've bought recently. Affirm Networks, Nuance Communications, Take Lessons, Clipchamp, Ally.io. It's such a mix. What does that tell us?
It really points to their focus areas, right? AI, communication tech, online learning, business tools. They're clearly snapping up companies to boost their capabilities in these key growth markets, both building stuff themselves and buying it in.
And of course, the huge OpenAI investment and partnership, getting exclusive access to early models like GPT-3, that puts them right at the center of the AI boom. How big could that partnership be?
Oh, it's already massive.
Yeah.
It's let them bake cutting-edge AI into everything super quickly. Bing search, Office tools, you name it.
Yeah.
It just shows how committed they are to leading in AI. And, don't forget their work in quantum computing with Azure Quantum or developing their own custom AI chips. They're investing deep in future infrastructure, too.
Plus making big global plays. Recent AI infrastructure deals in the Emirates, Indonesia. It really shows that global scale and ambition. And hey, their 50th anniversary is coming up soon, April 2025.
Wow. 50 years. It's incredible.
Though a little bit bittersweet, maybe, with Skype shutting down next month, focusing fully on Microsoft Teams.
It's the end of an era for Skype. It was revolutionary back in the day.
Totally.
But it shows they're willing to consolidate, focus on Teams as their main communication platform now. Makes sense, business-wise.
Of course, a company this huge attracts controversy. Remember the Scroogled ad campaign against Google? That was pretty aggressive.
Yeah. That definitely showed the fierce competition, right? And Microsoft wasn't afraid to go directly after rivals. Caused a lot of chatter.
And they've had layoffs over the years, including some recent ones in gaming and the Azure cloud business. Those decisions always hit hard.
Yeah, layoffs are unfortunately pretty common in tech. Restructuring, economic shifts, changing priorities, even successful companies make those tough calls.
We've also seen employees inside Microsoft speaking out sometimes about military contracts or diversity and inclusion stuff.
That's a growing trend across tech, isn't it? Employees wanting their companies to, walk the talk on values and social issues.
Then there are the ongoing regulatory things, antitrust concerns, especially in the EU, security challenges like that Russian state-sponsored hack in 2024. It's a constant juggling act for a global tech giant.
Definitely. These issues, data security, fair competition, the power of big tech, they're huge, complex, and always evolving. It's the reality of operating at that scale.
On a different note, they talk a lot about environmental goals, carbon neutrality pledges.
Right.
But then you have the rising energy use from all this AI development. That's a challenge for the whole industry, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Committing to sustainability is important, especially for a company that size. But yeah, the energy footprint of AI is a serious growing concern. Microsoft, like others, is looking hard at how to manage that.
Okay, and just briefly, the financials. I mean, Microsoft is consistently one of the top U.S. companies by revenue, a massive global brand, hitting $1 trillion market cap back in 2019. That was huge.
Yeah, incredible milestone.
And even with market ups and downs, they remain incredibly strong financially. $1 big sales everywhere.
Their financial performance just underlines their market power, their ability to make money across so many different areas. That trillion-dollar club is very, very small.
So wrapping this deep dive up, what are the big takeaways from this incredible Microsoft story?
Well, it's just a story of constant innovation, isn't it? And strategic shifts like that MS-DOS ownership decision, just brilliant.
Yeah.
And the vision changing over time from that intense early tech focus to this much broader ambition now with cloud, AI, gaming. You always see that mix, though.
Yeah.
Deep tech smarts combined with really sharp business thinking.
And it matters to you listening because understanding Microsoft's past gives you so much context for the tech you use every single day. Maybe some aha moments popped out for you, that early piracy fight, the potential neurodivergence link, that smart city idea.
Yeah, and it hasn't always been smooth sailing. There have been controversies, challenges, but their ability to bounce back, adapt, and just keep pushing what computing can do, that's been consistent.
So thinking about the massive impact Microsoft's had over 50 years, and now this huge push into AI and cloud, here's something to chew on. What completely unexpected ways might Microsoft shape our lives in the next 50 years? What questions does this deep dive spark for you about where tech is heading and the companies driving it? Definitely something to think about.